there's so much good work going on in your world. I'm looking forward to getting into it. Are you ready to roll?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Always.
let's do it. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the show. It's great to meet you. I appreciate it.
You as well, Joe. I'm a fan, and like your energy here is just couldn't be more comfortable and nice to be around.
Absolutely. Let's get into it. I'm looking forward to it. I want to begin. There's so many things that are going on, but I'm going to start with this. And you've talked about traveling. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing our world, changing our lives, everything about it. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you live and do things today?
Oh, great question. I didn't know we were going there, but that's fun. Um, you know, I think my reaction or response to the pandemic is was pretty similar to how I've lived my life. I don't like following the status quo. I don't like being told what to do. Um, I avoided those things that people said I must do because it is in my best interest or it is in public safety's interest. I did things that I felt were very much aligned with my principles. I stayed well. I never got COVID, so I certainly didn't pass it to anyone. Um, and I found ways to live my life um, reflective of my desired wellness and connection. We're blessed, in Canada generally, and where I live specifically, that we have wide open spaces. Outdoors was a lot of what you could still do, and so we did that. I had two young boys at the time, weren't even, oh yeah, we're just starting teens, and we were able to stay active and do all the things, and so connect with people outdoors. And I think that was a big part of wellness, and remained sort of the hallmark of what had people well, or the opposite, created the isolation and the dis-ease in people. And so I made ways to still travel, run away to Central America for some extended times, and just try to live my life. We were just talking about the bubble. We just tried to avoid all the drama of it, which is, I think, such a big part of what, that toggle between well and unwell.
I think it's interesting. I did the same things. I got out, I took the kids out. I had two nearing teenagers, and we would just go out and see the world, and we just carried on. And I think there is a part of, I mean, that had a monopoly on us that whole time period, and it was either going to be taken advantage of or it was going to be wasted. And there's nothing worse than wasted time. Um, and you're proof to that. I mean, you traveled, you didn't get it, and you're here and healthy talking about it. And I think there's a lot of people that did the same things. I overwhelmingly hear positive stories about that time period. And I was actually surprised, especially in this country, that liquor shelves, I thought they would be empty. And instead, for some inane reason, it was toilet paper. And to this day, I think it was just group think. It wasn't anything specific. There was no bunker mentality. It was just a weird thing. So again, it just
Mm.
proves how strange that time period was. Um,
That's a
yeah.
really great point. And people, for the most part, didn't turn towards abusive behaviors and things. Well, I think relationship wise, there
Yeah.
was certainly some of that, but you saw sort of the supply chain around mountain bikes and motorboats and camping gear and all of these things that people couldn't access, and prices shot up and such. So it was actually, I agree with you. I think to see that sort of demographic or uh, activity shift was actually quite a positive thing.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into all of the job titles that you have and synthesize it to make it make sense to a 12-year-old at career day in a school. You have to describe what you do on a daily basis. How do you do that for them?
That's, my kids would say terribly. Um, but I think what I hear them sometimes say to their friends, because they continue to ask, which means I'm not doing a good job of it, is they just I just help people get along better.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is to know that starts with self. I have to get along better with myself so that I can understand others, so that I can get along better with them. And then that spills over into marriage and parenting and business leadership and ownership and things like that.
So what did you want to be when you were a kid? When you were 12 or 13 years old, what was your dream gig?
I don't remember having any of that. I think I just wanted to be free because I wasn't. And, there could be some, again, sort of maladaptive practices of this constant drive toward I need to be free. Because I grew up on a big farm where there wasn't a lot of freedom, even to be my characteristic foolish self. I had to toe the line and do the work, and the work never seemed to end. And so I just remember it, like always wanting to get away. And that's been a big part of my life. My history of travel started when I was one with the family. So it was deeply ingrained. And in my siblings, there was a pattern to follow, my being the youngest. But it was that, at 18 years old, leaving the farm, the small town that had shaped me, and traveling the world for a decade. I think that is, I guess, then as awareness grew, I just wanted to be more and more myself and figure out who the hell that was.
Yeah. So where were you from originally?
From a small town called Renfrew, Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
about an hour west of Ottawa.
So in that wonder that you had to get out and see the world and to help people now, who has been that inspirational force, that template that you've looked up to that's allowed you to find yourself and to help other people find themselves?
There are many, and I think toward the end of your question there, I think that travel is its own inspiration, because we get away from these preconceived notions of who we are and how we'll show up. Oh, you're the Stevenson kid, your mom at the hospital, your dad at the high school, you're a jock, you're, a fool, whatever, a joker. Um, and so getting away allows you to reinvent every day if you want, and decide, oh, I want to shed that, or I want to try being more of that. And then the actual role models, both heightened awareness of what I wanted and what I didn't want, are seeing siblings and peers kind of flounder through the education system and don't know what they're doing, and dropping out and changing programs, and then coming out and still not knowing what the heck they're doing with all of this very expensive piece of paper. And I knew I didn't want to do that, especially because I was spending my own money. And then almost all of my siblings had also traveled, usually after that university stint. And there was such a longing for that. Even my dad, I said I started at 1 years old. So my parents took 6 kids under 8 years old for a 1 year sabbatical around South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. And then every year my dad would show the slides from that. And I was 1.5 to 2.5. So I don't remember a single thing, but it just always just tore at my heartstrings because it was so beautiful and looked so magical, but I couldn't remember any of it. So there was a lot of impetus for me to get out and explore, for sure.
So when you did finally get out and tasted that freedom, what was the first place in that year that you visited that was magical, that totally blew you away, that was like watching those slides and seeing those images?
um, it wasn't so beautifully architected as that. I tried again, as sheep do, I went off to university because it's what everyone else was doing. But there I had access to all this money I had access to drugs and alcohol, play in those spaces. So that was my freedom for a little while. And then I kind of had this awakening after kind of pissing about 10 grand up against the wall, and realizing, well, I don't have to pay tuition to party like this. And so then I moved out west to British Columbia to this huge ski resort. and I kind of toned it down a bit. And then it was more worldly, it was more magnificent in the mountains and the ocean. And then I started to become a little bit more aware, hanging out with powerful women and switching to more responsibility, working to earn my living day to day. And so that was the initial year of burgeoning out into the world, but it created the foundation of what would come next, and just the knowing that kind of there's so much more within me that I need to explore. And now, okay, I've had freedom to play and slack off and get stoned and do whatever. Now, what do I really want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? I think about travel with, in regards to, we hear so much about environmentalism and what we're doing to the planet. And I'm always reconfirmed. Like, I just went to San Diego last week, and, coming from Kansas City, you don't get to see oceans and mountains and pelicans and all of that. When you see it, you realize that nature has it all figured out. Nature always will find a way, you know? And our role in this is, it's almost like we muck it up, but they know what they're doing. They got it figured out. And I would imagine, traveling as much as you have, there has to be epiphanies like that you've realized about being a human on this planet.
Yeah, you nailed it, Joe. And it can be so simple, right? And I love that about nature. Everything gets done and nothing is rushed. And I had that situation, just I was explaining in my men's group the other night that I had some triggering moments, which are pretty rare for me when I'm living this. I'm traveling with my son and we're having beautiful experiences and things like this. And so at the end of the day, my journaling that we do in the men's group, there's a line item for challenging. What was challenging today? And I'm usually like, this last month, I'm like, what was challenging? But I had a travel day and airports and airlines, and so it became this thing where I had a triggering moment when I got on the plane. Well, a few backed up, so it was sort of stacked, and this gentleman wasn't aligned with what the check-in people had said. And so I was in this place of frustration, and I really had to do the work, which is a beautiful thing to remember. I'm a 20+ year practitioner in this. Well, 30 years of practicing, 20 years of passing it on. But still, in a moment, I can get triggered to aggression and anger and a want for redemption. And then I can look out and see the Sierra Madres that we're flying over, and the little paths that the people walk to their villages, and the incredible clouds that we're flying over. And just
Yeah,
remember to breathe. Just
that's it.
remember that it's all okay.
Hmm.
And that guy is doing whatever he thinks is right to do. But what do I want to do for myself in that moment, so I'm not dumping the cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol and premature aging in
Yeah.
that moment,
Yeah. Totally get
Yeah.
it. Totally get it. So, what is it for you every day? Your job is to impact lives, and you have to take things on that people have, and people have a lot of things that can be murky. How do you protect yourself? How do you keep your energy up, stay hopeful, and do this job along with taking care of your soul every day?
I love that. And it's almost, I think those are, to me, they're separate. My wife and I work with my wife. I have for 21 years. We've been married for 21 years, and we work alongside each other. So we consider ourselves quite blessed that this is the work that we do. If we were making hockey sticks or something, we might not still be married.
Yeah.
But because our work is about our continued awareness and our impact on others and how we build relationship, then we are required to do it each day. And so what I find really interesting, and my wife Dale and I say this all the time, it's just we don't take on the stress of others. And I think because we have developed almost a great simplicity, Joe, of this approach to recognize that if they're like, I guess what does become wearing is when people stay in their story and choose to stay stuck, but then we kind of choose to break up with them. I'm not interested in a lifelong client. I'm interested in working with people who actually want to change. And I can help you see that story that you're holding on to in a moment. And once you become aware of that, if you choose to work on that, then we're going to work together. If you're going to choose to stay stuck, then don't pay me.
Yeah.
You go be upset. That's what you're choosing. But and so there isn't a lot for me to take on, which is really nice. But then the other side of that is my own reality, my own conditioned patterns. And so what I do for that is, like I just explained, the awareness is such that I can see myself in situation. I can see myself when I'm quick to anger with the kids, when I'm quick to judge my wife, when I get triggered by traffic or my finances or the business stuff and overwhelm and things like that. I can see it quite easily. And so that taking care of is what my coach had to really drill into me, because as a man, as a farmer, it was like, I can do it, go harder, head down, push through. And it was through that great coaching that I received that I was able to see the impact of that on myself and by extension, those who are closest to me.
So if you had a dream tonight, ran into an 18-year-old version of you, and you walked into a room and there was a film projector and you hit play and a 60-second highlight reel of this life you've lived came up, would that young version of you believe that your life turned out this way?
I think so. I've been an eternal optimist. Um, and what I didn't know then, I think I didn't know. So
Yeah.
so to say that, oh, you became this like very aware person who could see your conditioning, and I think what I might not have, like, I might have been surprised that, like, damn, does it really take that long? But since then have just committed to it. What's going to take forever? My wife always says, I'll be perfect when I'm dead. So not a huge surprise, because I've always known that I would work on things and they would work out. Um, but the ups and downs are always interesting to me.
Yeah. So let of all of the lives that you've impacted with your work, you're in this position where you're changing their lives. What's been one of the best letters, the best feedback from a client that you've gotten that just totally surprised you and blew you away?
It's actually it remains of a similar vein, Joe, that it's just I'm a different person. And just the gratitude for helping people create the awareness, but then also that confidence to be able to change. Because I think a challenging and scary part of this journey is to just get to the awareness stage,
Yeah.
which is the challenge of the 1 day seminar, or the motivational speech, is that we heighten our awareness, and that can almost make it worse if we don't know what we need to do. And so helping people recognize that moment to moment we have a choice, and it's going to be these loops that we go through. But if we can see that every moment we have a chance, that's sort of the feedback, is that I'm a changed person, and I was able to do it. And what a lot of guys say as well is like, and because now they want to pass it on, it's like, trust me, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And so I guess that also is such a massive and inspiring point of the feedback, is when people are passing it on, which I hear more and more.
Yeah, there was a quote from Ethan Hawke recently where he talked about just kind of this evolution that we go through in life, and people do get very afraid of change, and how embracing the change and embracing the fact that we're going to be different from year to year, it's a big deal, but it's a natural thing. If you do live through this life, you're going to go through things. You go through different incarnations. You were single at one point, then you're married, then you didn't have kids for a while, then you have kids, and then you just go through all of these things, and in all of those there's challenges, because if you want to be good at it, it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have to go through bruising, and no matter how you believe, no matter how you are, you're going to get beat up by this reality. But you got to evolve.
Right. Well, and that's the critical point, right? We're going to get bruised and beaten, but how much do we want of it? Because there becomes a choice where it's becomes this masochism if we're choosing not to evolve.
Yep.
It's I'm going to stay and let things deteriorate. I'm going to stay the way I am because that's my comfort zone, even though it's uncomfortable. It's my familiar zone, and I'm just going to keep taking those knocks
Yeah.
versus, okay, help.
Mm-hmm.
That is my biggest struggle of like, and with men especially, having them self ID and saying, please show me another way.
Yep. Yep.
Because we just stay stuck.
Yeah. So, of everything that you've done, accomplished, evolved to, overcome, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
I really I want to say just my relationship that I created with my kids. You know, the fact that my son, instead of going straight into school, post secondary, came down to Nicaragua and just explored at that age in a healthy way, and was volunteering and doing different things to survive. And that my so he's 17. My 16-year-old and I came down and traveled together with him and two of their friends for 2 weeks. And then I've been another 3 weeks with my 17-year-old. I think the fact that I have been able to create this relationship that we continue to work on day to day, but that to me signifies a big shift in who I was and the evolution that we were just speaking about, because the parent of that newborn and that 5-year-old and that 10-year-old would not have been invited into this space to journey together.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you in all these different bubbles around our lives. But you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Still figuring it out, Joe, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I think I am definitely this kind of like happy-go-lucky, this light in the world who believes we can, who wants to have fun even when it's work. I believe that's who I am at my core. I believe who I also am is, as Dick Schwartz would say, a combination of parts, some that are still hiding and hurt and haven't been fully uncovered and healed. Um, very few know that those exist. Those who are closest, my wife and kids, know those exist, don't know how to name them, don't know how to heal them, because that's my journey. So there's sort of the two layers, the very inner circle that recognize that, oh yeah, this guy's awesome, but he has flaws. And then there's those who like, oh no, Trevor is wonderful and magical and has it all together, and he's this great coach and can help everyone. He must be perfect. And so there's a couple of layers there for sure.
So if anybody is ready for the next step, they want to book a call, they want to reach out, they want to learn more, is it ConsciousLead.life? Is that the best place to go?
Yeah, you can find me there. My Instagram is Fun Road to Freedom. And yeah, I'm happy. I would just love to connect with anyone for a conversation about all this, what's going on in their lives, my beautiful mess, all of it.
I love it. I will put all these links in the show notes. Trevor, what a joy. I'm so glad that our orbits arc together for a little while. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.